Show the proof, supporting your arguments. Hey there, my name is Antony P, and welcome to this video brought to you by the Center for Academic Literacy here at NTNU. The previous lesson in this series, Lesson 3, discussed techniques for capturing the audience's attention in the introduction and how to create a clear and focused thesis statement for your presentation. This is Lesson 4 on how to support your arguments. This lesson has two main sections. Section 1, strategies for selecting and incorporating evidence to support your arguments, and Section 2, using visuals and examples to enhance the clarity and persuasiveness of your presentation. All right, let's go. Section 1, strategies for selecting and incorporating evidence to support your arguments. Every academic or business presentation needs strong arguments that persuade and educate the audience. Strong arguments are supported by evidence, typically as facts or data. Your evidence needs to be credible, relevant, and trustworthy. For example, if your argument is that people should quit smoking, then your evidence would likely be studies that highlight the health benefits of quitting smoking. Here are the best sources of credible and relevant and trustworthy evidence. Peer-reviewed international academic journals publish rigorously vetted articles and reports. Government agencies offer official reports, statistics, and research findings backed by research and data. Research institutes produce scholarly papers, studies, and reports. Research institutes often have a special focus, for example, Taiwan's National Center for Research on Earthquake Engineering. And nonprofits and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, produce scholarly papers, studies, and reports often addressing societal issues. The evidence from these sources is the strongest when it has been peer-reviewed and when it can be easily replicatable and validated by other professionals. After you have your evidence from these sources, consider other sources of evidence such as expert opinions, case studies, and anecdotes. These can be very valuable for a presentation, but are not as credible, relevant, or trustworthy as something like a published research paper in the New England Journal of Medicine. How to select the best evidence? Here are some questions you should ask yourself when selecting your evidence for your presentation. Who is the author, and are they credible? Where is the evidence published? A peer-reviewed journal, an academic publication, a recognized website? When was the evidence published? Research published in the past 10 years may be more relevant than something published in the 1960s. Is there other published material that contradicts the evidence you want to use? If so, consider including that evidence to give your audience a fair and unbiased picture of the situation. When to incorporate evidence during your presentation? Strong presentations use evidence to make strong arguments. Every time you want to state a fact, you need to present the evidence. Here is a good example of using evidence during a presentation. A 2021 article by Fang and Selvin titled 30-Year Trends in Complications in U.S. Adults with Newly Diagnosed Type 2 Diabetes, published in the journal Diabetes Care, found that over the past 30 years, there have been reductions in albuminuria in adults with newly diagnosed diabetes. In this example, I stated the year that the research was published, the authors of the paper, the title of the research paper, and the journal that the paper was published in. Saying all of this information takes time, but really increases the credibility of the evidence. Use a structure like this when presenting your most powerful points. Here is a weak example. Albuminuria in adults with newly diagnosed diabetes has been declining. In this weak example, has been is vague because this could be any amount of time. The past 200 years? The past 3 years? No one would know. Additionally, the audience doesn't know who the author is, where the study was published, or what the study was about. Next point, quoting, paraphrasing, and synthesizing evidence. These are 3 ways that you can incorporate evidence into your presentation. Quoting is using the exact text. It is most useful when the exact words are very meaningful. Famous people like Albert Einstein are often quoted in presentations. Quoting is when you use the exact text. Paraphrasing is when you summarize key information in your own words. This takes some critical thinking, as you need to craft sentences that merge information from different parts of a publication. Lastly, synthesizing evidence is when you integrate evidence from many different sources to construct your argument. This involves a lot of critical thinking, as you need to link those different ideas and evidence from various places. Synthesizing information in your presentation shows your expertise. In Section 1, we discussed strategies for selecting and incorporating evidence to support your arguments. Now, let's move on to Section 2. Section 2, using visuals and examples to enhance the clarity and persuasiveness of your presentation. Powerful presentations utilize visuals such as graphs, charts, and tables, and schematics and diagrams to enhance the clarity and persuasiveness. Sometimes presentations will utilize dozens of visuals to highlight their points and engage their audience. Here are the 5 characteristics of clear and engaging graphs, charts, tables, and visuals. Large text and numbers in standard fonts. Explicit category labels. Coloring that is clear on a projector screen. Units of measurement like kilograms, pounds, millimeters. Citations for data from other studies. Let's look at a good example that has all of these characteristics of a clear and engaging graph. Here is an effective bar graph titled Points Scored by 4 High School Basketball Teams in Period 1 and 2. This graph has large and readable text and numbers in a standard font. I know people in the back of an audience can read it. This graph has explicit category labels. I see labeled X and Y axes, and I see 4 team names clearly separated on the X-axis. I see 2 clearly distinguishable colors representing period 1 and period 2. On the left, I can see the unit of measurement is number of points scored, and lastly, the citation at the bottom giving credibility to the data in the graph. Let's look at a good example that has all of the characteristics of a clear and engaging chart. I can see large text and numbers in standard fonts. I can see explicit category labels. This chart uses black coloring that is clear on a projector. And I can see units of measurement, kilograms and centimeters. Let's discuss other visuals, such as diagrams. I love diagrams because they can make a complex idea easily understandable to an audience. Here's a good example. This diagram shows a study's data collection timeline. We can see a clear title in large text at the top. We can see 4 explicit category labels. The coloring is clear and helps separate the different categories. I also like how this diagram doesn't use too many words. Now, here's what this text would look like on a regular slide. What a huge difference. This slide has all of the same information, but it's boring, hard to read, and makes me sleepy. Let's go to our next good example. On this slide, we can see 2 clearly separated groups, the control group and the experimental group. The first sub-box refers to the participants' diet, and the second sub-box refers to the participants' exercise time. Simple diagrams like this make it easy for the audience to quickly understand your information. Another way you can use images to support your research is to show the subject of your research. Here are some examples. This slide is showcasing the human lung's cardiac notch. This slide has clear titles, a nice high-resolution model, and a concise definition, and no other distracting details. Here's another example of using images to support your research. This brief slide quickly shows the audience where the research was conducted. This is particularly useful for a biologist studying a species only found in a specific location, like a rainforest, and also for an anthropologist studying a specific population of people. Before we finish, let's look at an example of what not to do. Before I say anything, just look at this graphic and notice how you feel. When I look at this, I feel anxious. My eyes hurt. I don't know where to look because I'm distracted by the shapes and the patterns. And I can't read the text easily because the background changes color. I'm also confused why there are shapes that are not used at all, like what is this purple circle? Lastly, there is inconsistent writing on stage 2. Let's fix this graphic to be easier to read. What an improvement! We can easily read all of the text due to the large fonts. We can quickly identify the 3 stages because of the explicit category labels. The coloring will definitely be easy to read on a projector screen. Lastly, I like the added arrows to show movement from one stage to the next. We covered a lot in this section. Here is a recap of the 5 characteristics of clear and engaging graphs, charts, tables, and visuals. Again, my name is Antony P. from the Center for Academic Literacy here at NTNU. Thanks for watching. In this video, we learned strategies for selecting and incorporating evidence to support your arguments, and we learned how to use visuals and examples to enhance the clarity and persuasiveness of your presentation. The next video in this series is Lesson 5, Linking Ideas Smoothly, Using Transitions. Understanding the importance of transitions and signposting in guiding the audience through your presentation, and techniques for smoothly transitioning between ideas and sections. I'll see you there.